It's showtime at the Apollo. What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Right Mindset. As always, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and today is Sunday, which means we are officially on the Write a Book with Me series, video 10. Wow. Wow. All right, I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know about you. Let's wait for a couple people to get in here. I'm going to set up the room. Ignore the hair. I didn't get a chance to really brush it. Oh, it's kind of tangly. It's tangly today. I'll brush it real quick before the room fills up. We have our usual guests that we're waiting for. I sent out the links. So what do we do on Sundays for anyone who's new here? Well, we write a book. We're going to be writing a book in real time. I'm going to be walking through it. We've been outlining, you name it, we've been doing it. It's been pretty exciting. So, without further ado, I need to do that. I don't know if anyone out there has long hair, but if you don't brush it and it's tangly, it like gives you a headache. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I'm old. Fun fact: of all the men in my family, immediate family, the only one not to go bald. So I'm keeping the hair. At least until I go bald. And then I'll, once that happens, I'll shave it all off. Oh, howdy ho, hello, welcome. Rory Victor. I'm gonna assume Rory Victor. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Welcome to the show. I'm setting up my room right now, and if this is your first time here, we write a book in real time, and I basically show the entire process. And we've already done brainstorming, and we've been working on what we call the extended outline of the smaller bits. What chapter are we on right now? I think we're on chapter, let's see. Oh, we're on chapter 7. This should be fun. All right. Let's get the screen going. Boop. My cat's like, yeah, I'm ready, Dad. I'm ready to be me. I'm ready to be annoying. I know you are. I know you are, kitty. All right. I'm going to pop the screen up in a second. We're just waiting for a few more people to pop in. Let's get everything set up. Haven't caught up on all the videos in this series yet, but didn't want to miss out on a live participation. Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you're jumping in on the live, and just know you can ask questions throughout the process on what I'm doing. If you have questions about your own writing or book, feel free to ask. It will not slow me down. I will happily answer questions pertaining to writing to help people however best I can. And yeah, if you can get to the other videos, not necessarily for my watch hours, but because you'll see the process in its full, clear entirety, which should be nice. All right, we got some people in here right now. Okay, let's do the whole spiel before we start, just in case somebody's new to the video. If you're finding this video and you're like, oh, there's 10 more like this, basically what this series is I am writing a book from scratch without putting any thought into it and showing you, the audience, the process from the beginning to middle to end. And for anyone who knows, we've already done the brainstorming brain dump. That was exciting. That's video 1 and 2. Then we handled character arc summarization and organization. That was videos 3, 4, and I think 5. And then we did some short form outlining. That took up a good amount of episodes. And then the last 3 episodes, or the last 2 episodes, have been the extended outlining. And on here, you can see it says extended outlining M-0 draft. That's because stage 4 has a 2-part thing to it. And you might be thinking, but Thomas, shouldn't there just be 2 stages? Well, no, because the extended outline allows us to take the short form outline and start organizing ideas into what would ultimately become chapters. And then within that same frame point, we're going to take those and organize the chapters with the zero draft, which is we basically work out and write out movement within the chapter. This organizing plot points and elements. This, by the way, this is my process, if anyone knows. That'll come later. Adjust what we found, so forth and so on. I won't have alpha readers for this experiment, but we will talk about that. We'll talk about questions when we get there and things that they should be looking for, and so forth and so forth. But anyway, during this process, feel free to ask any questions that pertain to writing, especially if it has anything to do with what I am working on specifically or what I'm going over, or because I'm a developmental editor and a writing teacher. If it's something to do with your own stuff, feel free to ask those questions in the comments below or in the live chat if you're here currently. More importantly, I'm going to be walking through the process. There's a lot of singing and there's a lot of randomness, but I assure you, it's all for fun. Sorry for not watching. I was working on my story too. It's in the vein of Conan, Heavy Metal, the movie with the setting in a fantasy kitchen sink. First of all, kitchen sink, that's where you had me. I'm in. I want to see the fantasy kitchen sink. Heavy Metal, excellent movie. Excellent movie. I haven't seen the second one, but the first Heavy Metal back in the day, that was some good stuff. And Conan, you can't go wrong with Conan. Thanks for letting us know. And by the way, if you haven't been watching because you're writing or working on stuff, all the more power to you. We miss you, but all the more power to you. All right, now that we got some people here, I'm going to take a sip. And I know I only have the Diet Pepsi and not the Diet Cherry Pepsi. Trust me, it bothers me too. All right, so on the screen right now, this is what we did as the this is the short form, right? This was the short form outline. Short form outline. Do 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 do. All right, but right now we are on currently. I think we're on chapter 7, right? Yeah, chapter 7, and I already brought the notes over. Okay, so let's see. The authorities. All right. All right, so we last left off chapter 6. Olivia walked around the city, and as she does, or as she did, there are people. By the way, when I'm working on my outlines, I don't really care about whatchamacallit, if it's in past tense, present tense, if anyone's wondering about that or even cares. Don't worry about that stuff during the outlines, because even though the book is going to be written in first person, I'm going to do first person past tense because I'll be more comfortable in past tense. But when it comes to the outline, you don't really have to worry about that. The most important thing is that you're getting the broad strokes down. And remember, it's not about specificity. It's more about the general thought, because we want to allow ourselves the freedom to write the story, how it unfolds. Like, for example, she enters a company that agrees to hire her. Now I know that has to happen, but how that plays out, I will happily be able to do as I demand myself to. What's this? The first Heavy Metal movie was a major influence on my creating process. It helped me make my first story ideas. Did you see it when it came out, or you were a little younger and then you got to see it? That movie is so influential in just its style and message and everything else that's going on. If anything can inspire you, that movie would be worth it. You're early. I'm prepared. I'm unprepared. Early. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my friend. Get the cat, get comfortable, let the cat lay on top of you, and the laptop. You'll be right. You'll be fine. I saw it when it came out. Oh, all right. So you're like my age, which is young, very young. We are young. We are young. Heartache to heartache. All right. Anyway, where are we at? Okay. So where we left off. Oh, just for anyone, what I was saying is you don't have to, just to really sum that up, don't worry about the tenses or, how you write the notes. Just worry about them being we stand heartache to heartache. Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So we got more. We got more. What we got? What we got? We got the second one was okay, a little bit more on the sexy side, but still a good time. Hey, you can't go wrong with sexy, right? Unless of course, you know, there's no story whatsoever. Then we're like, what's going on here? Okay, we have to organize these notes into chapter. All right, let's see. Our goal is also to add this element. This is a new element that was not in the original, but it would make sense to bring that into that. So she had doing a job finding the parts for her ship. So I'm going to do a couple things right off the bat. I'm gonna create the 3-scene motif here that I've been doing for each of them. Okay, because remember, we always want conflict. So this will be Laura working her new job and her needing to go check on the ship to see what parts she needs. So she's waiting for her day off. She does hear rumors and news about potential worry and threats to her safety because of the ship. That's just me. I'm just doing some notes for myself right this second. All right. I'm actually going to bring this down here so it's just has a full page. The second beat is where Laura gets to the ship out in the field, still crashed, and the authorities are there checking on the ship. It appears they've been here for a few days. Stuff from the ship. The ship is outside and organized. And people are protecting it. Okay. I should say guarding it. Guarding it. All right. Okay. Oh, all right. Lost a couple people. That's all right. And then the third moment is Laura dealing with having to hide herself a bit more and concerned on how she's not only going to save up money for parts, but also to now get the ship, repair it, and get home. So those are interesting, right? So those are the pressures in there. So that's going to be the arc of the chapter. Now, keep in mind, right now, my goal, remember, I'm trying to give myself goals and limitations, is to write a chapter per plot point. My nose is all itchy. But that doesn't mean when you're using the 27 plot point outline or the 27 chapter outline, whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean that every plot point must be a chapter. And why am I bringing that up? Because right off the bat, there's a chance that this could end up being 3 chapters long, or it could be 2 chapters. This could be a chapter and this could be a chapter, right? It's whatever works for the story. But when I'm working on it at first, I'm always trying to get the least amount of chapters and get the most amount of information in to move it forward. But as I develop my stories and as I develop the narrative, I have no problem building on it and expanding ideas and thoughts. Very new to all this, all of my previous writing attempts have had no outline and just winging it as I go. I can definitely see the benefit of outlining as a guide, but it also seems very tempting to lock yourself into those ideas. I agree with you. And that's why I approach it in a mixture of outlining and discovery. So I'm a gardener. I'm an architect that gardens. And what that means is, you see this. Oh wait, let me get the screen up a little bit. If you look at this, Laura dealing with having to hide herself a bit more and concern. This is such a broad general statement that this part, even if it is quote unquote rigid because it's the outline of movement to the logic of the narrative, the outline, how it unfolds is completely up to me. That's the discovery part. That's where I get to play. And even when I'm playing with that, minor details might change and adjustments might come from it, and that's okay. That just means that the next plot point beat, I now get to make whatever the general statement of the plot point beat is. I have to make the dots connect to that. And that creates more opportunity for me to allow characters to move through emotional experience and choices. Because remember, a narrative is made up of plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what. And story is how it unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices of a character. So if this has to happen no matter what, how that unfolds is the part where I am not locked in. I can do whatever I want to make this happen. And that's where the freedom is. The reason I create an outline is so I know where I'm going and how and how I can play to get there. That's the fun part. That's the creative part. What do we got? Oh, we got flowers. Flowers. I've just asked this myself today. I'm wondering if I want to extend PP6 over 2 chapters. Still wibbling on that one. First of all, wibbling. I just fell in love with you. Second of all, plot point 6. Oh wow, you're on plot point 6 already. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Plot point 6. For anyone who's paying attention, plot point 6 is the immediate consequence of action taken by the protagonist. Nice. You're flying through it. Yeah, I think one of the good tells of if a chapter should be more than one chapter is if the chapter broken up, each chapter still feels like a complete chapter, has a beginning, a middle, and end, which means there's a setup, a conflict, and a resolution to whatever it is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a resolution to the story. It just has to be a resolution to the problem that was presented in that chapter, even if it doesn't technically get resolved, but like the characters have resolved their interest. And then the other thing is your word count. A lot of times what happens with me is throughout the process, let's look at plot point 7 again. Throughout the process, what might happen is this right now looking good in my mind. Hey, I could do this. I can make this one chapter, right? But then as I'm doing the extended outline and I'm playing with the chapter, this one might end up still being kind of short. I might get 1,000 words out of it, but this one ends up being 2,000 words. So now I'm around 3,000 words. So that means if this is more than 1,000 words, maybe, just maybe, I should break it up. But what does that do? It allows me maybe to play with this a little longer, or whatever the case may be. But then as I'm writing the long form, I might also realize, oh, all right, maybe each of these should get their own chapter because this one is getting a little long. This is almost 2,500 words. And this one went from 2,000 to 3,000. And it's like, okay, all right. And this one to 1,000, because what you're going to notice in the process is, again, for anyone who's just sort of catching this series, I go forward, I go back, I go forward, I go back. And as I'm adding information, I'm going back and adding information, if that makes sense. I'm taking what I'm creating and then I'm seeding that. So chapters and ideas are always expanding and being built upon. So as I write, I do the same thing. So the zero draft is going to sort of be plot. It's going to show the chapter written as if it's just plot on the page, just so I go, oh, everything that needs to happen is happening. And that in itself might be like, oh, this is going to be a quick chapter. But then I go back and I start adding the prose. And this is where I start adding more of the character immersion, the character experiences, the emotional truth. This might be where I get a little fancier with the writing, whatever the case may be. And now the chapter is going to expand a little bit more. Then, ultimately, at the end of the day, when I go back and do my line editing and I clean things up, a lot of times I realize I find myself building an intro more, like moving into it, and then that extends it. So we're always going to be trying to define the chapters. It is very much the Zelda method, right? We're always going to be always defining our chapters as we build on it. Flowers, my advice to you is if you are in the wibbling stage of should it or should it not be, focus on just getting the chapter, whatever chapter you have in design, get that written, get the scenes worked out, make sure everything makes sense. And then as you get closer and closer and closer to the end, I'd even say your second or third draft, that's where you're going to really start saying, okay, I have to start committing to a lot of these chapter styles, right? Because what is the rhythm and the rhyme? What is the ebb and flow? What is the give and take? What is, I have to create a pacing. Maybe I've had 3 long chapters. Now I need to break it up. Always. And yeah, always adjusting. And yeah, so just write it. Just write. And as you get closer and closer to quote unquote finalizing it, before you go into hiring a line editor or a copy editor, you should have your chapters finalized. As an aside, just to give some confidence to people and anyone who's reading, is I'm on the third draft of, or third, fourth draft / depending on the chapter, of my epic fantasy, the first book of my epic fantasy novel. And even that has led me to either a split chapters. I just split a chapter the other day. Original chapter, Beneath the Wings of Faith, turned into The Flicker of Fire, and Beneath the Woe of Faith, right? The Woes of Faith. So I turned a chapter that was ultimately one chapter into 2. Now, the funny part is, and this is the funny part, is when I did the outline, chapter 1 felt very condensed, like it was only like 3,000 words. Then as I started building on it, I was like, and chapter 1 in the 0 draft outline became 4 chapters. It became 5 years later, the others, Beneath the Wings of Faith, and then of what ultimately became another chapter. I had actually reorganized it. Became another chapter, which was, it's now called My Verone. But that was originally the first chapter. What that helped me do is I realized breaking chapter 1 up and then splitting 2 chapters in between there. So now it had a rhythm to it. And now that first chapter experience became a more full narrative. So it's always important to listen to the story as you're developing it. Do you always give titles to your chapters? Does that help you feel more into it? Yes, I always give titles to my chapters just because I come from old school way of writing, and I like my chapters to have wordplay, but also fit the motif of a chapter. The other thing I do is I always title my scenes for me. The audience will never see that, but I always title scenes for me. And the reason I do that is so when I see the title, it puts me into the mindset right away of what that scene is supposed to be. So if we're looking at this scene right here, I would probably name this scene Laura working at her new job. It's just simple like that. Yeah, like a snapshot. Yeah, boom, boom. Just pulls me right into it. It would be a quick snapshot. This would be the ship has been compromised. And now I know that's the energy of that scene. As far as the chapter goes, this chapter as a whole might be one thing, and then over time change. Boop. Yeah, and honestly, and very honestly, at the end of the day, the chapters can change. You can take the chapters out, but they do help me. It's not that I feel, as you're saying, feel more into it. They're just really great, like you're saying, snapshots. They just pull me right in. The chapter title pulls me in, and then the scene titles pull me in. So, there you go. Can chapters be short stories that tie together? Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a creative choice. That's a stylistic choice that will add to your voice as an author. Again, the first book in my epic fantasy saga, the first book has a 8,000 word prologue, but it is a short story. Ultimately, it is a contained story. It does influence the tone, the feel, the themes, the back. Not necessarily. It's not exposition. It's not like Lord of the Rings, where like there was 7 rings and 3 wings and 2 rings and a cock ring. It's more or less a story about something very specific, and I don't want to give it away. But the rest of the book, I look at it almost like they're like we're watching an episode on television, right? So like every chapter to me is almost like an episode. However, if I were ever to turn it into a television show, because I come from TV and film originally, I could see like the first 3 chapters of the book as an episode, the second 3 chapters of the book as an episode. Like, because I write in a way where there's a rhythm to the episodes where they do connect, but they are also isolated like moments. Doesn't necessarily mean they're scenes. But yeah, to the short form answer is absolutely. The only thing I would say is if your chapters are all like 10,000 words, you might want to think about adjusting that a little bit. Only because it'll slow the pace down. It's very heavy. But there's a book called The Garden of Shadows, I think. What is it called? What is it called? The Gardens of Shadows book. I think that's what it's called. No, maybe it's not. Some garden of something. Old book with long chat. Oh, maybe it is Garden of the Shadows, a book with long chapters. I can't remember the name. I don't know why I can't remember the name. Yeah, old book with long chapters. Whatever. I can't think of the name right now, so I apologize for that. But what I'm saying is, it is possible, but you do want to maintain pace, so keep that in mind. But if you're just talking about like a 3,000 word or a 5,000 word chapter where it just feels like a complete story, I wouldn't necessarily call that a short story in a sense. Just like the 8,000 word prologue isn't technically a short story because, but it is a contained beginning, middle, and end to it. So it all comes down to choice and style. At the end of the day, though, your beta readers will tell you, "Hey, what are you doing?" They'll be like, "Great idea, but could we adjust it?" All right, let's see. See at her job. Laura works at her job. A job that is about fixing ships, since she knows how. Oh, since she's a mechanic, right? She has to be a mechanic. Boom. All right. What else we need here? Laura needs to make a list of parts. She has the list off the top of her head of what she needs. The big things. But she needs to go to the ship and figure out the little things. All right. All right. So we did this. We want some pushback on her being a potentially getting caught. All right, so that's going to be this. This is going to be the pushback part. This scene of the chapter will be the pushback. But right now, let's talk about this. Okay. All right, this is going to be ignored. We're actually going to go back to the original. And we're going to remember we don't delete anything from our files. We just scratch it off. The reason I'm deleting it on here is because it's a copy and paste, just so I don't have to go back and forth. But why do we keep stuff and not delete it? Is because you never know. You might realize going back through your notes, oh wait, I can actually add this in, or maybe I can make sense of this. It's always good to keep your notes, especially in the originals. What I was thinking of doing, because I like teaching and everything, is after I release like the books, to go back and like release like the variations of the book, like what the book looked like in a 0 draft, and what it looked like in a first draft, and then like a second draft. And then like maybe release like the kind of notes I was getting from beta readers. Like once the book is released, though, sort of like a, here's the different versions of it. Maybe, that could be on Patreon or something like that. Whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that sounds like an interesting idea or something that would be fun to experience. And by the way, it's something you can think about doing too. Keep your old notes together, and becomes like something like an extra whoop for your audience. All right. Okay. Well, we basically said a lot of stuff. It appears they've been there for days. Okay. Laura gets close enough to hear that the authorities learned where the ship came from and who owns the ship. Okay. Okay. Laura has to get out of there and try to get back without being seen. Okay. What we got here? Boop. Hey, I just updated my story where my main character's 9 lives will only have 1 curse on them. Ooh, called the Dimming Grace Light Curse. That's pretty good. I like that. Look, you can't go wrong with the Dimming Grace Light Curse. You got to say it like that, right? Like it's because it's a curse. I like it. I like that you updated and you're keeping it going. Keep that going. Keep that going. Do, 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 do. All right. I'm very proud of you. It's hard to keep going, let alone start, so amazing. All right, where are we? Oh wait, I'm not visual. Boop, there I am. All right, Laura has to get out of there and try to get back. By the way, if you look at this, I always, even in a scene, I have conflict. And remember, conflict doesn't have to be like, doesn't have to be fighting. But the conflict here is that she needs to make a list of parts. She realizes that she has the big stuff, but now she needs to go figure out the little stuff. So, you got to remember every scene, every narrative, every act, every chapter, every scene, every character arc, everything needs a beginning, a middle, and end. And that beginning sets it up. The middle always challenges what you set up, and then you want to resolve it in some way. By the way, resolution moves story forward. Conflict makes it interesting. Setup gives context. That's always that's a good way to approach it. Setup is context. Conflict is the interesting part. And then obviously resolution, well, not obviously, but resolution moves your narrative forward. What we got here? While I realize most people might find it hindering to the editing process, I find it much easier to write by hand than typing it out, at least on the first draft. I can bring a notepad and pencil. By the way, that's an awesome way to approach it. I commend you. I have a massive issue with dyslexia, and pencil with me wherever, whenever, everywhere easier with me everywhere easier. No, it's definitely something to if that works for you, let it go. For me, I can't write long form. I either have to write all in capitals, and that doesn't always work. But my brain has trouble writing out the symbols; they get all mixed up. So the keyboard, what I learned is I still have trouble spelling, but at the same time, all great writers have great editors, but the keyboard allows me not to have to worry about trying to make sense of the symbols. So that I used to write longhand because old school, but the computer is a godsend for me. Hey, what's up? Hola, ¿cómo estás? For scenes where I need to write slower, I write on paper. See, I did that in the vampire voice for you. For scenes where I need to write slower, I write on paper. That's actually look, just like the writing everything else. It makes sense because it allows you to kind of sit in the scene and work the scene out without being rushed through that scene. I get it. I like it. I like it. You are correct. Did you write correct like that because you knew I'd sing it? Let's be honest. Be honest with me. I'm all good today. The name of the babysitter is Alice in Wonderland. Nice. Alice in Wonderland. There's nothing wrong with Alice in Wonderland. I'm the Mad Hatter, if one might even think. Do I have my hat? Oh, I don't have my hat around here. I have the Mad Hatter hat. Mad in the head. Okay, so this is the other thing. I'm gonna actually put this here. She hears them speaking about finding her. However, they mention something about the gang, because remember the gang was with them, but the ship is hers. So is this Laura Olivia person find her. What do we got here? Oh yeah, after finishing act 1 of my whip, I finished writing chapter 1. Awesome. Also, thank you for the comment on my novels trailer. Absolutely. Look, we have to be supportive of each other. I'm not just here to be like, hey, check me out. I'm here because I believe in the community and I want to support the community. So I'm glad that made your day and helped you out, because that's the reality of it. And even the last video, yesterday's video, I was talking about, like, community is so important. You have to just celebrate and elevate one another in a strong way. But congratulations, by the way, finishing the act 1 and then chapter 1, and also whip. I don't believe that's how do you I think you're saying it wrong, Brian. I think you're saying it wrong, Stewie. No, I'm saying just how do you have to say it. It's Q-whip. Q-whip. No. Say cool. Cool. Now say cool whip. Q-whip. All right, where are we? Oh, sorry, my ADHD. Okay, so by the way, the reason I added this, just as anyone knows, is because I want to seed. I want to seed the fact that they're going to be in the next scene looking for her in the city, right? That's the important part. Is you always want to seed information in previous beats or earlier beats. I could even go back earlier, depending on the purpose of it. And you want to seed in the inevitable earned results of somebody doing something. So if these guards just randomly just showed up and now they're like looking for her, the reader needs to be slowly brought into the reality of the narrative. You can't just throw stuff on their faces. And I know twists exist and stuff, but even twists technically need to be seeded so we could go back and be like, oh, he was always a ghost. Ooh, what a twist. All right. Laura is working. No. Laura returns to her job and begins working. All right. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering how do I work this, uh, these are scene beats in my opinion, right? So it appears they've been here, so I need to establish that stuff from the ship. This needs to be established. People are guarding it. That needs to be established, and then this has to be established. But the reason I do this indent like this is because it's just an extended element to this beat. I do it a couple times up here too. Someone gives her a chance, but she's can't tell anyone, right? And then when asked why, this is an extension of this beat. So that's why I do the indent like that. You'll see me do it a lot more when I'm working on the zero draft of chapters. And you'll notice, and I do it very specifically to help me maintain the the pace and the movement, like the sway of the scenes. Like you could see me expanding a beat and then kind of pulling out on the beat and then eventually changing it to a completely new beat. And it's just a visual for my brain. I'm not saying you have to do it, but I do it that way because it visually helps me move through the rhythm of a scene or a moment. You know, that's why I do that. So Laura returns to her job and begins working. And now I want, authorities are out and about in the streets checking businesses. Oh, yes. All right. Some authorities come into the business. Now, this will be an extended to that beat. Laura. Actually, what I could do is Laura overhears authority. Well, actually, since it's going to be in first person, a lot of these things have to come through. So she would see authorities are out there. So Laura gets nervous, all right, and tells her boss, who is friendly with her, because remember, he has that story about his life being saved in a war by the opposing side. Some authorities come into the business. Let's do this. The boss gives her some welding equipment and masks, tells her to go in the back and work on one of the ships. Okay, some authorities come into the business. Laura is blasting her welding machine, or whatever it's called. I'll learn all the real words later. The authorities. This would be like this. Authorities are with the boss and yell up at her to stop. I can do this. This might be a funny. What? Moment. Think about that. It's something to think about. This might be a funny, like, what? Could you shut that up? I'm trying to talk to you. Laura lifts her helmet, and her face is covered with soot. All right. Okay. She answers their questions from high up on the ship. Anyway. All right. Ultimately, the authorities leave. All right. Obviously, that doesn't feel tension based, but we will work on that. We will work on the tension. Thomas, yes. What are you doing? I like to make sure my words are spelled right. I don't really worry about spelling anymore. I used to be self-conscious. Like right now, like back in the old days, I'd be freaking out. Like, oh, they're seeing I can't spell. But honestly, all great writers have great editors. And all great writing is rewriting. I think there was another video that I did that Flower, I think, definitely pointed it out, where like I didn't spell presents, but I spelled present like a present. And back in the day, I would have been like, I can't believe I spelled that wrong. But in reality, none of it matters. None of that stuff matters. Don't let that stuff bother you. I had a teacher in 4th grade tell me when she asked the class, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I wanted to be a writer." And and she was like, "Maybe you should get a trade because you can't spell." And this is before dyslexia was even like a thing, you know. Oh, I gotta add the love interest stuff. I'll put that in there. Is it? Presents. I was wondering how many. There were 7. Okay, there's always 6. It's always 6. It's always 6 presents. um. So this I'd actually let me put this in the top part. Let me put this over here. She's working. Why did I put it here? That's a great question. Thanks for asking. I put it there because this would be the least distracting moment. This is a softer moment. This is height. This is a little. The stakes have been risen, and of course the stakes are risen even more. And that's the other thing. Remember, you got to raise the stakes. Always think about raising the stakes. How do I raise the stakes? What does that mean? What's at stake? What is at stake right now? What's at stake here is she's working a job. She's trying to save the parts, and the stakes are pretty low. She's like, "Oh, I forgot. These are the parts I need, but there's going to be the little things." So stakes are, she's like, "I have other stuff I have to figure out." And we raise the stakes here. Oh, my ship has been compromised. I can't get there, which means I can't get the information for the little parts, which means it's going to hold me back. But also, they know who I am now. Stakes have been risen. Now they're actually actively searching. So now she could be caught. So you have to always be thinking about how to raise the stakes. Raise the stakes. Oh, yes, always 6. I always fret over my sentence structure. I've never been that great at grammar. Again, great editors, right? So all great writers have great editors. If that wasn't true, Brandon Sanderson wouldn't have an editor nor anyone else in the industry. I don't know if you've seen me do the Rewrite the Great series that I do on Saturdays occasionally. I do it once a month. And in real time, I'm writing sentences and they're slowly evolving over time. And it's really not, I mean, even now, I'm not even caring about the sentences here. The grammar's all over the place. Like it's really like, it's nothing to worry about in the beginning. Where you have to start worrying about your sentence structure and grammar is without a doubt, like draft 4. Because draft 1 is getting the story out and making sense from the 0 draft to the first draft. Then you take a break, and then where I'll even show you. I'll show you. Let's see. So, right, let's do this. So when you're doing this, you got to think. The 0 draft is basically like the play around draft where you're figuring out the movement of chapters. And then after you do all the foundational work, now you're going to write the first draft. This is where you're going to start adding where I would suggest adding the prose. And I wouldn't necessarily worry too deeply about immersion and all that stuff, but you're starting to add the prose and character, emotion, and experience. Then you're going to take a break. Then you're going to come back, and then you're going to read and take notes. And then you're going to use those notes to help you rewrite the second draft. And even here, do not worry about grammar and spelling too much. Don't allow that pressure to stop you from writing. You still have much to go. You have a long way to go before you have to worry about that. Anyway, and then you have your beta readers read it for the experience. What is their experience reading it? This isn't necessarily the alpha readers is where it becomes functional and foundational. But the beta readers are like, am I liking it? Do the characters work for me? Am I enjoying them? All that stuff. And then from their notes, you write a third draft. Still, again, not worrying about grammar and editing because, as you can see, we have to rewrite stuff. We have to continue changing stuff. We have to adjust things, right? And then you do the big read and you write down some more notes. If you need to, then you do one more revision. After that revision, to keep yourself focused and centered, right, and moving, after that revision, that's where you hire a line editor. And their job is to worry about your grammar and your spelling and your sentences, the clarity in your sentences, all that. And then after you edit it based on the line editing, then a copy editor comes in and specifically searches for misspelling. They search for consistency, capital consistency with the terminology, things like that, correct word use. And then you're ready to format that the book. So again, don't worry about your grammar and spelling in the beginning. It's not even worth the energy. It's just you're constantly going to be working on it. You're going to be adjusting and changing things anyway. What you should be focusing on is foundational elements. Does the narrative make sense? Is it a cause and effect? Are characters making choices? Are they experiencing things? Is the plot moving along because characters are moving through agency, meaning they are making choices and stuff like that? And then you can start adding a little bit more of the pretty stuff, and like if you like the pretty stuff, whatever, But as you continue and go, you're gonna be working on creating consistency. And by the way, in this series, I will do line editing just because I just want to show it. I want to show what it looks like. But ultimately, you should hire a line editor. I'm a developmental editor, which is different than line editing. My job is to do what I'm doing right now, all this back end stuff. Or if you already have stuff written, it's to basically reverse engineer it and see what's working and what's not working, and then kind of put it all together. Anyway, with that said, we did chapter 7. We're an hour almost in. Let's see if we can get chapter 8 at least going. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. What are we doing here? We got more. Thank you so much for that advice and encouragement. Absolutely. Trust me, I've been in this business a long time. I know what it feels like to have to live through those anxieties and those worries and those concerns. And in reality, none of that. Like when I was in a professional environment, the one thing that I always used to really bother me before I got there was everyone was so concerned with the spelling. Oh, you can't spell. But I was really great at story ideas and like fixing the broken stuff and seeing patterns that are not working and stuff. What's the first thing I learn when I get to the tables, like a writing table or like in a room or something? It's all talking. No one's writing. The first 2 or 3 weeks is conversation. How do we want to see this play out? And then there's somebody, a head writer, writes on the board. All right, that sounds good. And they don't even spell it right. It's all shorthand. And I was like, oh, okay, this is good. And then when you write your screenplay, your script, you're not even the one who edits it. You hand your script in. It's going to go through revisions. Sometimes they'll give it to another writer to revise and like clean. Because sometimes people are really good at like punching up humor or punching up drama or punching up whatever the case may be. And it's the same thing with novels. Somebody else is going to clean the crap up. And your job as the writer is just to make choices. How a character reacts and responds, how that is presented through the immersion and emotions, the order of events. Like the writing part is the creative part. And if you're really good at the creative part, the technical, like the spelling and grammar stuff is the part you're not even responsible for in the end. Otherwise, the line editor just wouldn't exist. And name one successful book that hasn't gone through a line editor or the copy editor. It's just we put these anxieties in our own heads sometimes, I feel like, and I'm definitely guilty of it, especially when I was starting out. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? Someone recognizes her as an alien that the planet doesn't like. Uh-oh. All right. All right. Laura is working on the ship for a customer. Okay, the customer comes in and Laura talks with them about the ship, what it needs, and how much. The customer, as always, is not happy with the price and how long it's taking. Okay, this turns into a, aren't you a XYZ from the planet X, right? Because I got to name all the planets. All right. This turns into a, I don't want them working on my ship. They're trying to screw me because they lost the war. Of 476 DR. And now I get to think about what that means. All right. Because time is different, right? All right. The boss intervenes and says that he'll handle it from here. The customer doesn't understand why they would hire someone from an enemy planet. But planets have been at peace for 2 years. Okay. Maybe we should be trying to honor that peace. All right. Now, we're going to need a second scene. The conflict. By the way, not every chapter needs like 3 scenes. Do I have 3 scenes for every chapter? It looks like I do. Oh no, chapter 4 only has 2 scenes. I think I only need 2 scenes for chapter 8. But as you can see, this does have a beginning, middle, and end. She's working on a ship. Then customer comes in. Then we have the conflict, and then we have the resolution to it. But the cause and effect is we can see the bias in the customer. So these show up asking to see the XYZ alien from planet X. When asked why, they say that the same alien is part of an investigation. All right, an investigation. Okay, all right. So let's see. There turns out she owns the ship and is being said. We already talked about that with criminals from plot point 2. Okay. I just got to see something before I move on. She can get okay. So the next beat, she's going to get arrested. So let's do it. Let's have some fun with this. The authorities notice her watching them and head after her. Dum, 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 dum. Okay. All right. We will need a third scene, and this would be the chase. Oh, actually, you know what? No, it won't be the chase. This will be the chase. The next scene, the next chapter. All right, so that's good, and I think I'll leave that for next week. All right, so this is a quick chapter, so that's good. So if you notice, just in my notes alone, this one is a pretty long chapter, just in general, because it's setting up a lot of stuff. And then this is pretty quick, right? We get the argument, and then the next scene is the authorities show up, and then they're like, "Get her!" And then we get to have a fast-paced chapter 9. I guess I could put this here since we're going to be working on that next one. chapter 9, where it is the chase and she gets arrested. So that's pretty exciting. Let's do a little checkity check, shall we? Let's see. Chapter 1, 3 scenes. I'm going to be honest with you. I still think chapter 1 is going to be broken up into 2 chapters. This and this would be a chapter, and then this would probably end up being another chapter. And that sets up the ordinary world. Then we get to chapter 2, where she's at the docks. Laura is in the process of loading the ship, and people come up, and then the ship gets shot at. This could all be one chapter. This all feels like it'll be one chapter too. Yeah, it looks like a lot of information, but in reality, these are just scenes, like scene beats, you know. Continues working on the ship. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff. Checks the computers. That would be a scene, a chapter. So far, it's looking like a lot of, maybe the first chapter will be split up into 2. I'd actually probably make this a second. This one I'd probably make its own chapter. So chapter 5 will get broken up into 2 chapters, just because this will be the ship coming into the thing and then them crashing, and then the next chapter is them dealing with the get out, or kill her, don't kill her with him, and then walks around the city, goes into the shop, and agrees. This could all be one big chapter, and then of course there's a small chance. There's a small chance that this might either turn into 3 chapters or 2 chapters. And this one is 1 chapter. Yeah, so see, just looking at it right off the bat, there's a chance that I'm going to have to extend, which is fine. Anyway. All right. It's about that time where I give the floor to the audience. If you have any questions about what we did today, what I am doing, the process of what I am doing, feel free to ask me those questions. If indeed you have questions about your own writing in general, please let me know, and I will be happy to answer those questions. Just checking my notes. I see there's a lot of positive. Ooh. Oh, that was really nice. That's really nice. Get a really nice comment. Somebody in the writers group, which, by the way, the writers group, it's on Facebook. You could join. You just have to submit a request. It says, Thomas, thank you so much for the series, talking about the series we're working on. I found you by accident on Google while researching the 27 chapter method, which is the original version of the 27 plot point outline. The big difference is the 27 chapter outline is specifically to make every chapter, every plot point a chapter. But the way I approach it, I changed a lot of details. But Kate O'Keefe, I recommend watching her videos too. She talks about the method because it's something that she works in a lot too. I just kind of expanded and added a lot of my screenwriting into it, which the comic continues. So Google, while researching the 27 chapter method. Coming from a screenwriting background, I found it difficult to get into writing novels because I didn't know how to break down the story into chapters. There are a few authors and resources that help with this on the level that this series does. So following along every week teaches me how to do this. Thank you so much. Your hard work and dedication to teaching the craft of writing in so many different ways is greatly appreciated. Alfie Collins publicly wrote that. So thank you for that. Honestly, that means so much to me. Wow. Yeah, no, really. That's really nice. That's really nice. All right. Thank you for that, Alfie. I just wrote a nice comment to him. Wow, that was really, really nice. Appreciate it. What do we got? Boop, boop. Do you have an idea when your fantasy series will be ready? Oh, I'm sorry. See, dyslexia. I know I said fantasy series because it says fantasy series, but I read it and then my brain was like, did she just say science fiction? I thought you were making a joke. Like, when is this going to be ready? I'm sorry. My brain. Great question. Do you have an idea when your fantasy series will be ready? Yeah, when it's good and ready. Well, I'll put it to you this way. It is a quote unquote 15 book saga, but it is broken up into 5-book series. So I am going to write the full 5 books of series 1. Okay. And once that is done, I'm going to release a book per year. And while that book is being released, I'm going to write the second series underneath that. So by the time the first series is completely released, even though it'll already be done, so no one has to worry about it not happening like George R.R. Martin, I will start releasing that. And then while that one is being released, so basically it's going to be at least another 3 years before I release that, because they are pretty thick, but not before. I hope to live long enough then. Listen, you tell me when you feel like you're going, and I'll just send you the books before I release them. I hope I can make it. But honestly, I'm going to release them one at a time, but after the first 5 are done. But also I'm going to have specialty deals where where especially fans and people who support me, they could buy either the books way in advance and get all 5 books. I might even do a Kickstarter or something like that. Or I'm really thinking about also doing for Patreon people, they could pay the $5 a month and get a chapter a week. But I might even do where you pay $7 a month and you get a chapter a week, but then you also get like sort of like behind the scenes stuff of those chapters. Maybe, as I was saying earlier, you might also get the outline stuff of that chapter and things like that. But yeah, so that's the long form version, the long answer to that. However, my self-help books will be coming out very soon. I just finished the last chapter, formatting and the last chapter for the manuscript for book 1. And then I will also be writing a lot of smaller books. For example, this book, I'm definitely going to release this book when it's done. But I have like I have smaller stories that I'm going to release too. Not short stories, but smaller stories that aren't considered epic fantasy, that will be within the world of the epic fantasy, sort of like I'll be building on the outside of it so people could become familiar with the terminology and those worlds and stuff like that. Those will come out a lot sooner. I am rewriting a story I was working on 11 years ago. We had attempted to move and it wound up having to be left behind because we had to return by bus with only what we could carry on our person. Wow. First of all, congratulations for getting to where you are now as a human being and persevering. Second of all, 11 years ago, hey, it happens, right? But it's great that you're rewriting it and reworking it. And also who you are and what you know and the emotional truths you've lived through, the personal experiences, you're going to really, that story is going to benefit from it, right? It was hard to convince myself to try it again. Yeah, I mean, look, going back, turning back, trying it's one of those things, I get it, especially because not only are you revisiting a story 11 years old, but you're revisiting who you were 11 years ago as well, as you're reading through the words of your youth and etc. I'm very proud of you. It's hard to start anything, let alone going back and reworking stuff. So keep that up. Keep that up. Keep it up. Keep it up. All right, what do we got? So yeah, let's see. As always, we'll give it 3 minutes. If there's no questions in 3 minutes, maybe we'll call it a day. But if there's 3 minutes, give us some questions. Let's do it. Let's answer it. Let's answer some questions. Let's answer some questions. Let's answer some questions. Do you got some questions? Should I put the banner up? Maybe that'll help. Maybe let's put the banner up. Where is it? Questions. For anyone who's just joining in, if you have questions, we just went through some outlining and real world plotting. But I always leave the last, try to leave the last half hour, 15 minutes to the audience. The table is yours. You can ask questions. I am a developmental editor and writing teacher. So if you have questions about your own writing or just what we did or outlining or anything, feel free to ask questions. At this point, even if they're silly questions, I'm happy to ask. Like, how much could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Would it chuck wood if it could? Is all I'm saying. All I'm going to say is, we are young, heartache to heartache. All right, anyway. We stand, we are strong. No one can tell us we're wrong. Anyway. Do. Dances. It's funny. I don't even remember the rhythm of it though. What is it? You're making me go, then making me stay. Why do you hurt me so bad? It would help me to know. I don't remember the rhythm. I don't remember the melody. I just know the chorus. We are strong. Oh no, we are young. Heartache to heartache. We stand. No promises, no demands. Love is a battlefield. Yeah, that was a good video. Good video. No questions, but good milestones from the baby. Oh, excellent. By the way, we got some. How do you prevent from getting burnt out coming up with all the chapter plot ideas? That's a really great question. Let me answer that. Made a first round. Hey, listen, sometimes you got to make a round or two. You know what I'm saying? Burnout. This is a good question. This is a really good question. Traditionally, I have what I call my writing schedule, and I write every single day, and it's a 60 to 120 minute block of time. I don't have to write that entire time. It's just me working on stories, my own stories, and every night, 7 o'clock-ish, I do 2 hours. However, an hour minimum, 90 minutes occasionally, 2 hours max. So I don't allow myself to burn myself out on overdoing it every day. But with that said, to answer your question more directly, I don't always have to work on the plot stuff. This is easy because I'm working on it, but I'm also talking, I'm entertaining, I'm answering questions, I'm reacting to you, the audience. All right. So in reality, I don't think I worked on this for an hour. This is probably 30 minutes of effort, you know? But the other thing that really helps me is I think of story or narrative in broad strokes, and then I slowly build on that. And I think by allowing me the freedom of not needing all the specific details and making sure everything makes sense right as I write it, nothing needs to be perfect for me. And it just needs to exist. And then I need to do the work that a writer must do, which is starting to make choices, starting to adjust things, starting to edit things. So that helps a lot. Throughout the day, though, if I have writing clients, I only give each client an hour. So if I'm working on an outline for a client, or if I'm editing for a client, or if I'm working on I'm developing their project, they get an hour. If I have more clients, I'll do no more than 2 hours a day. So if I have 3 clients, it's 1 hour Monday, and then another hour Monday for another client, and then Tuesday's a client, and then that second hour I'll go back to the first client, whatever the case may be. That keeps me from being exhausted. And I also sometimes try to break up the hour, except for when I'm writing. If I'm writing for my 7 o'clock writing, I just go from 7, 8, 9, and then I call it a day. You got to come first, like your sanity. So, don't overdo it. But more importantly, again, I don't just write during that time. So sometimes I'll do research. The other thing I like doing is right now, like even right now, I'm working on editing, third and fourth drafts of the first book. So what I'll do is I'll spend an hour on that and I'll stop at the hour. And then the second hour, I'll go and start working on cleaning up the extended outlines for book 2 or book 3 or book 4. And like jumping those things helps me sort of reset the brain. But I've always been like that, like, well, at least for the last 15 years. So if I have a busy day, like let's say I have a to-do list, I don't think about finishing what's on the to-do list. I just think about starting what's on the to-do list. And if they're tasks, I'll give myself anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. And I just start the task. And when the bell goes off, I stop what I'm doing and then I move on to another task. But I try to make sure the tasks are so different from each other that, for example, if I'm doing the hour for a client, the next task would be something that has nothing to do with writing. It might be networking. It might be doing marketing stuff. It might be doing banking stuff or like money stuff. It might be maybe a personal task, like I gotta go mail something, or maybe it's clean the dishes, or it's whatever, something simple. That also helps me from burning out, is because I'm just restarting my brain every 30 minutes to an hour, depending. So that's something to think about too. I hope that answered your question. I know I sometimes long-winded, but I'm Sicilian, so unless I'm sitting on my hands, I can't stop talking. I'm Italiano. Lui è Italiano. Louis, yeah, Louis A. Italiano. If anyone's just stopping by, I give the floor to everyone around this time. I just did about an hour of outlining and working on a story in real time. You can watch the video again, but if you have questions, feel free to ask questions about writing. It's all about you right now. I'll do all the shindig stuff. By the way, if you haven't done already and you've been watching this series, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. It really does help. And share the video if possible. It's right next to the like button. Oh, good. That makes me happy. That's the part that makes me happy. As long as it's helpful and it's just not me rambling. That's really next week. Every Sunday we do this series, which is ultimately about an hour. So feel free to every Sunday, 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. Oh, thank you so much, Flowers. Obviously, the compliments from you really makes me. It's the heart feels. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you as always. Oh, getting me singing. That's how you know you're doing right. Right by me. Yeah. So, and then Saturdays. Remember, Saturdays are alternating kind of like videos. What is next Saturday? I think I said yesterday, but just in case for anyone who's listening, I think next Saturday is next Saturday is a logical narrative movement. Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited about that one. Logical narrative movement. What is that? We're gonna talk about it. You hear me talk about it often, and I'm sure I've made sense of it. But we're actually gonna focus on it. All right, I guess that's it. Is that it? You guys ready to go? That was pretty good. We did good. What was that, 7 hours? I mean, it's 7 hours. I feel bad when people stop in and they're just like, what's going on? I have my seat ready for that. Yes. Is it a cushion seat? What kind of seat? Is it like a wood chair? Is it a recliner? Is it a couch? Like, how are we doing this? Is it you're at 8:00, so maybe you're not in bed. I would be in bed by 8. No. Also, is it raining over there? I know it's the home of rain or something like that, right? Guess I could close this down. Close. Oh, by the way, just for anyone who doesn't know, oh, yeah, look at it. It's a velvet balloon back vampire. First of all, you had me at velvet balloon, and the vampire chair is definitely. Do you have any suggested order for watching your playlist? My playlist in general. Yeah, I do actually. I would watch the Outlining series first. That's probably one of the stronger um from the start. Yes. Oh, Jesus, you just got my snort. As far as the playlists go, what I would do is I agree, Angel. I agree. The Outline series is probably the best one to start with. And then I would move on to character. So exploring the rules of writing. Character development. Create deep, realistic characters. And then from there, I'd go to exploring the rules of writing. So outline, character, rules. And then everything else is just do whatever you want to do. However, there is advice stuff too. There is the business of writing. And then, of course, just random advice for writers. From start. Oh, wait again. Could I expand my one world for a few chapters? Could you clarify that question? I apologize, Hannah Hart. I'm not understanding the context of the question. Maybe you're saying, could I expand my? Could you take a few chapters and just work on world building? Is that what you're asking? Let me clarify that for me, and I'll answer that. Obviously, from the start, you gotta start from the start. You gotta begin at the beginning. Now, outline, character, rules, probably the best order. And then of course, I have dialogue playlists too and stuff like that. But honestly, there's also a video that a lot of people have really liked, and that is the Alien outline. For some reason, yeah, that's the 27 chapter outline, live outlining plot points in real time. It's called the Alien Invasion Story. my One of my favorite comments is actually from that video. What is it again? It's I'll read it. This is literally one of my favorite. The guy writes, "Bro finished the masterpiece in 1 hour and said everyone can do this." And then he has like a skull, like he's dead. I was like, okay, but that's really funny. It's just, that's an old video. It's 2 years old. By the way, if you notice, if you have watched older videos, my information does evolve, and so it is important to always keep evolving as a writer. You know? What does it say? I have a floating island that my character's night lives on. Oh, Nye's lives are on. And I was wondering if I could expand it or how they grow up before that. All right. So I guess you're really talking more about. All right. When it comes to world building, exposition, background, backstory, my answer will always be seed it through chapters. If a chapter is dedicated to showing the audience that a character is nice, that chapter probably needs a lot of work. And the only reason is because if a character's nice, they should be nice, right? If a character is really smart and they're good at one thing, you don't create a chapter to show them good at that one thing. You allow it to be filtered through and seeded through the whole novel that they are indeed. They have an expertise to that. And then when it comes to world building and exposition, you also want to see that through. So I wouldn't, but again, you're the writer, so you can do whatever you want. It is a stylistic choice. But for me, my advice would always be to ultimately spread out world building, exposition, and backstory and stuff like that. Oh. It's funny. Yeah. By the way, the laugh, I believe, is on the masterpiece thing. As does the beard. Oh yes. Well, of course. The beard. The beard's been asking for a raise. I'll be honest with you, and I don't know if I could afford to give it a raise. One day, though. One day. One day or another, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you someday. Maybe next year. Sorry. We like singing on this channel. You just gotta endure it. I'm a singer, you know. It just happens. Speaking of, my friend has been hounding me to record the vocals to a song that we wrote together, and I've just been dreading doing it. I did the guitar stuff in like one day, but like the singing is. He's like, bro, we gotta finish the song, then do another song. And I was like, I'm exhausted. Anyway. All right, there we go. An hour and a half. That was pretty good. I think we did good. We talked about the beard. Excellent. Check. Talked about floating islands. Excellent. Check. Talked about some screenwriting stuff. Check. We talked about vampires. Check. 1. Does that count? All right. All right. With that said, I guess that's it. I'm gonna say my goodbyes. I think we're done. I think we're done. All right, let me get to the thing. Let me find the video so I could hit it this time. Don't start singing Kiss lyrics to it. I won't. I promise. I will not start singing Kiss lyrics. I don't even know any Kiss songs. You know, it's not really. I don't even know who they are. I will say this: you don't have to be beautiful to turn me on. I just need your body, baby, from dusk to dawn. That's as much Kiss as you're gonna get. That's a deep cut from Prince from a song named Kiss. That's a little bit of. I did a little bit of mental juggling for that one, but don't need to experience to turn. I love Prince. I miss Prince. Not that I knew him personally, but I miss him. You know, like, come on. You're so beautiful. You're the most beautiful. I like when he goes so deep with it. I don't know Kiss either. Yeah, wow. By the way, I'm sure you've heard the Dynasty album, the one where they did like the concept album, and everyone was like, "Can you just do Kiss Alive again?" And then they did. They did it like 18 times. All right. Okay, that's it. We're done. We're going. We're gonna go. All right, so let's do it. Thank you, everyone, obviously, for joining me for this wonderful time every Sunday, 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, and much love. And keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.